All right. Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Samuel. I'm your instructor for this class. I am aware that this is part of a series of video on um photography. Personally, I've had my experience with photography. Um, at least I should have been in the photographic um business, video editing business, graphic design business for nothing less than 6 years now. So I believe the experience I'm going to bring to you, the practical teaching I'm going to give you will help you on your photographic journey. All right. So I will not waste your time. We have syllables before us, as you can see. Um, the essence of following these syllables is so that we can have a structured approach to learning um photographic editing, all right, or image editing. Okay, so at the end of the course you should be able to use Adobe and know how to manipulate it towards getting a good result with your pictures. So without wasting much of your time, we'll start on today's course. Today's course is Introduction to Adobe Photoshop. You cannot learn how to edit pictures without learning the software first. For most of the things that we do, for instance, most of the skills we have, sometimes those skills are first of all knowledge of the software, then the skill of applying that knowledge of the software to solve any problem. So that is why we're going to start with this. We're going to start with introduction to Adobe Photoshop. All right, so I have before me a Photoshop application open. Okay, this is not the right one. So I'll open the right one. I have a number of Photoshop softwares. So I'll open the right one. Actually, this is the songs is where it's taking me to the. Let's just use this. Okay, let's just use this. So I'll just create a blank document for the purpose of this class. Let's leave it at landscape. Then let's use A4 at landscape. And then let's leave this at okay, meters. Okay. Okay, so for the purpose of this course, I will be introducing you to Adobe Photoshop. Adobe Photoshop is a destructive picture editing software. Okay, even though you can use Adobe Photoshop for videos, but it's a destructive software. Meaning that anything you are doing is actually affecting the pictures. Okay, for instance, if I bring in any random picture here inside, just to explain what I mean, I bring in any random picture into the software. Let's see, DLC. This is a logo picture. So the TLC center. Alright, so I'll expand it. Okay. Now this is a picture of a logo, right? Now, so in Adobe Photoshop, normally it is destructive. It is destructive because if I use, for instance, the brush tool, right? The brush tool, and I make use of the black color, black color, right? Everything you are seeing here, everything I am doing on this, right? You cannot remove it. I see. You cannot remove it. It becomes part of the picture. So when I see that Adobe Photoshop is destructive in nature, this is what I mean. Anything you're editing it destroys it. Okay, so on a normal day, if you want to work with something that you don't want it destroyed in Photoshop, what you do is when you bring that file in, okay, let me bring back the file, the same file. When you bring the file in, okay, just like this, I'm going to stretch it. I will explain something again here. But when you bring the file in, right, if you don't want it to be destroyed, you always keep a backup of it, of the file, the original file you brought in. To keep a backup, you simply need to press Ctrl J. Okay, Ctrl J will create a copy for you. Then you can put it under and hide it. Okay, so number one, we have learned that Photoshop is a destructive picture editing software. Number two that you need to know is that Photoshop also, right? Photoshop is a pixel-based editing software. Right? If I pull up a picture, for instance, this picture plus any random picture. If I pull up any picture, if I pull up any picture, okay, for instance, this, right? This picture, okay. What I'm doing is I am zooming in. I've zoomed in up to 6,000%, almost 7,000%. Now, in a pixel-based editing software, whatever you create is made up of pixels, okay? Pixels meaning tiny boxes, okay? It is tiny boxes that come together to give you whatever image you have, all right? So Photoshop is a pixel-based editing software, right? So it makes use of pixels. In contrast, there's another software from Adobe, this same company, Adobe Illustrator. Adobe Illustrator is a vector-based editing software. Okay, what do I mean by that? When you say vector-based, you mean that whatever picture, whatever you create with Adobe Illustrator, at the end of the day, no matter how far you zoom the picture, if you like zoom the picture or blow the picture to the size of an upstairs building or a story building, right? If you like blow it up to that standard, it's not going to have problem. Okay, so Adobe Illustrator and Adobe CorelDRAW, they are almost the same thing because they are vector-based editing softwares. But in contrast, Adobe Photoshop is a pixel-based editing software. That is why if you notice, anytime I bring in this very particular picture that I've been using to explain stuff for you, this picture, this DLC picture, anytime I bring it in, you see it is already pixelated. Okay, these tiny boxes is telling you that this picture was made with something, right, that is a pixel-based video picture editing software, and that is why it is happening this way. You see, it's giving you tiny boxes. It is made up of pixels, right? So we've learned two things now. The first thing we've learned is that Adobe Photoshop is a destructive picture editing software. Second, we've also learned that it is a pixel-based picture editing software. Then the third thing you need to know is that it is a layer-based editing software. What do I mean? Anything you bring into Adobe Photoshop, right? I'll delete this section, this part. All of these things are called layers. Okay. Now, so it is a layer-based editing software. So anything you bring into Photoshop, okay, anything you bring into, let me look for a picture, okay, anything you bring into Photoshop is placed on a layer. It's like onions, one on top of the other, like that. Okay, so you see the latest thing we brought, which is this picture called flags, is on top. If I bring in another thing, if I bring in another image, let's look for let's use this. If I bring in another picture, you notice that it is on top here. Okay, so Now we've learned three things. The first thing is that Photoshop is destructive. Second is that it is pixel based, and the third, it is pix. First is it is destructive. Second, it is pixel based, and third is a layer editing software.